All present and accounted for. We have some correspondence which I'll share with you for the record. We do have a resolution for discussion. That would be Two Girls, One Boy LLC. Dominic, I'll turn it over to you for a brief explanation.
Yes, this is the hotel on Main Street. At last month's meeting, the applicant appeared. They went through their current set of plans at that time. The board had previously granted preliminary site plan approval to the project, but what was outstanding was the possibility of conditional final site plan approval, as well as a special permit approval for the project as well. And so they had made a submission and had also requested that the board consider at last month's meeting granting conditional final approval. The board had some questions and concerns. The consultants also provided written comments to the applicant. The applicant then appeared at the work session in September for the October meeting. They acknowledged the questions and concerns that were raised at the September meeting. And we were expecting that they were going to be making a submission for October. However, the board did authorize a resolution at the September meeting, so I went ahead and prepared it and circulated it to you. It's a fairly detailed resolution given the scope of the project, but it appears that the applicant's not here tonight. And so what I would suggest is that we table this, given that A, that they're not here, but B, more importantly, also that there hasn't yet been a submission that addresses the board's outstanding comments.
Thank you, Dominic. With that, we'll just ask for comments from Kristen.
I don't have any, please.
Okay. Board members? Steve?
Nothing more.
No? You're good.
I'll save my list till next time.
You need a motion?
No, you just need a comment.
No, we're full.
Okay, we're not,
I'll only point out that the board has done, as we promised last month, and are typically awaiting further submissions from the applicant to move the application forward, as is usual, based on the extensive comments from last month.
okay, with that, I'll take a motion to table.
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go. Okay. New business. Ever received copies of the planning board dates for next year? Does anyone have any conflict or issues? It doesn't mean you can't miss a meeting next year. It just means that we can put it into the record for Gary's sake. Everybody has to get it up. We'll be very happy because we'll know when you can go to me. Any questions? I'll take a motion to accept them.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Very good. Little Brook Farm. Dominic, you wanted to give a brief?
Yes, so actually last spring, this project received approval from the board for the master plan for additional structures at Clovebrook Farm. And the board had granted approval. We had prepared a resolution for it, and then we had provided a copy of the resolution to the applicant to make sure that, given the overall complexity of the master plan being presented, that they were okay with the comments. And we also understood that they had continuing discussions with the Orange County Land Trust and the State Historic Preservation Office regarding the structures on this site that were proposed. That resolution never got finalized because they were focused on the discussions with the Orange County Land Trust in particular. And at the work session, they appeared and they had two fairly minor changes to the resolution. One was the reading room. The way that we had written the prior reading room limitation was that it couldn't be served by utilities, but by that they meant that they were not going to provide water or sewer utilities to the reading room. They would like to have electric light for reading. So we made that change to the resolution. And as well as, since this is an overall master plan that's intended to happen over a period of time, which is the original genesis for this application, because they were coming to Gary for building permits without clear understanding as to what was going to be happening at the property in totality. They've asked for the ability to get building permits as the Orange County Land Trust signs off on each structure, which makes sense given that this is an overall master plan for future development. So I made that change as well. So unless the board has any questions, I think what's in order would be a simple motion to approve the amended resolution as presented.
Okay, but with that, Chris, you have no extra comments, I would.
No, I have no objection to the changes that are proposed.
Okay, Sean?
Same.
Okay, with that, any board member have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, we received something from the DEC on the 19th of September. Dominic, I assume that that thing about the firewood shed retaining is in the final resolution.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, any other board member have any comments? I'll ask for a motion to consent to Dominic's request.
So moved.
Second? In favor?
Aye.
Okay, with that, we will move to, I have made a change in the hearing agenda. I'm moving the Rizzi Bouton to number 1 on the agenda. I have a potential conflict of, I'm sorry. I have another discussion item, a request for extension for formal comments. This is fait accompli, correct, Dominic? We kind of have to do this.
It's standard, as you recall, the board accepted their request to step down from conditional final approval. This is for the 10-lot bulk subdivision. No construction is permitted as part of this, no construction of any structures. And this is the 2004 application where they have proposed to take the 200-acre Cornwall Common site and carve it up into 10 potential lots. They've steadily maintained their conditional approval for this. It's currently preliminary approval, and there are no limit on the number of extensions for preliminary approval.
And that is by state law, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Move we extend the.
I'd like voting on a resolution, you have no choice on it.
Move we extend the.
Well, you always have a choice, you know, but there's
Okay,
consequences.
right.
You know,
Four
consequences
possible
to choices.
Okay, take a motion.
Move we approve.
Second,
Second.
in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for bringing that up. With that, I moved the Rizzi Bouton item to number 1 on the agenda, and because of potential conflict of interest for me, I'm somehow related to the Rizzi family. I have my last name ends in Y, I'm not a guy, I don't know how that happened. But if led you to take care of this, I will recuse the Dominic. Should I leave the room? Do I need to? Dominic,
Yes.
do I need to leave the room?
No.
Thank you.
You got it. Sure.
There.
Do the applicants wish to make any statement?
We're good?
It's a pretty straightforward lot line change as laid out in paperwork. Mr. Crisco, any comments on the application?
No, it's fairly straightforward. You know, it's a conforming application. The thing is that lot line changes in the town of Cornwall do require a public hearing because they're treated as subdivisions.
Certainly. Any comments, Crisco?
Yes, this is the first time this application is before you, so I'll go from the beginning. The application involves a transfer of 9,048 square feet of land from one lot fronting on Continental to an adjacent property frontage on Ashely Way. Each of the lots contain a single-family house, no additional development proposed at all. It's strictly just a piece of land in the rear of the property, from one rear of the property to another. Both lots located in the town's SR1 district. Rizzi's lot is currently undersized for the zone, so that should be made conforming by this lot line adjustment. The other lot has an existing non-conforming side yard, not impacted at all, so no variances appear to be required here. I did want to point out that both lots back up to the Idlewild Creek. There is no floodplain. Strangely, Sean and I looked it up at the workshop meeting, there's no floodplain associated with the Idlewild Creek in this location. We don't make the rules, we just do what the code says, so no floodplain, and so therefore there's no lot area deduction associated with the floodplain. But there's no impact to the stream as a result of this application. The applicant did provide us with a short EAF, which we find acceptable. Lot line adjustments are type 2 actions under seeker, so this board doesn't have to do anything else in that regard. Based on the intermunicipal agreement that the town and county entered into, this does not have to be referred to Orange County for general municipal law review. But as Dominic mentioned, this does require a subdivision, or a public hearing for the subdivision.
Thank you. Sean?
I think Kristen covered all of it, except for just one thing that I noted, that the lot line will not impact any of the existing septic systems, and therefore our office takes no exception to the proposed lot line change.
Excellent. So hearing no significant issues from our consultants, rather than doing a roll call, I'll ask the board if there's just anybody who'd like to bring forward comment on this particular action. So can I get a motion to set a public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I believe that's all that's required, and I return the gavel to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. With that, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. And now we have the darkroom. Is the darkroom here?
Yes.
Yes, I can help out in connection with this one. So, and Mr. Farrar certainly can fill in any blanks that I have, but the purpose that they're here tonight, Mr. Farrar's here tonight, is because, as you recall, this was originally a town board special permit for the darkroom for him to have events at the facility. And one of the conditions that the town board had originally imposed on the special permit was the requirement to have off-street parking, and in particular, not so much to have off-street parking, but the specific language was about maintaining an agreement with one of the neighboring property owners where they could have car parking for off-street parking, since this particular lot doesn't have any additional off-street parking except for the 2 spaces that are behind your building.
Correct.
And so after some time with a number of events, Mr. Farrar demonstrated to the town board, originally with an application to us, which we referred to the town board because this was dealing with the town board's condition, and this board couldn't have amended a condition established by a different board. He made a demonstration that the parking area was not being utilized, and recently the town board voted, and I believe the vote was 4-1, to remove the requirement that he maintains his agreement with a neighbor for off-street parking. The second part of that's what the town board did. So the town board's special permit no longer requires that an agreement be maintained for off-street parking on neighboring property. The issue is that why they're back before this board is that because of changes made in the recent past to the code by the town board, the planning board now has the ability to waive up to 100% of the off-street parking requirement. And so the second part of this is whether or not the planning board would be interested, as Mr. Farrar is requesting, in waiving 100% of the parking for the special permit to allow the events at the darkroom. I think that sums it up. But
Yes.
but I mean,
That's my understanding of it, as I think everyone else. Kristen, do you have any comment?
That was not submitted to the town in a narrative, so I didn't have anything to review, so I didn't have any
Is
comments.
that a pleasant experience or what?
That sounds great.
Okay. John, nothing? Okay.
Same as Kristen.
So this is basically a request directly to the planning board, with limited input necessary from the consultants. Steve, do you have any comments?
No comment.
And how do you feel about it?
I don't have an issue with the 100%.
Okay. So,
Do you have an issue with 100% waiver?
that is not for this project, but in principle,
Same principles.
good someone that this board
All
has.
Main Street, down street here. We have a CDA for Rizzi.
Okay, thank you. Mary Beth?
I'll concur with that. I don't have a problem with waiving a percentage of the parking, but not 100%.
Okay, Amy?
I support waiving 100%.
Okay.
100% also.
Yeah, I support waiving.
You support waiver?
Waiver, yes, sir.
Okay, so with that, we'll ask for a vote. We'll ask for a verbal, individual vote.
So I move we provide 100% waiver for the darkroom project as requested.
Okay, I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's
No.
do a roll call.
Okay. We have Steve, yes. We have Amy, yes. We have Bill, yes.
do the room.
Say.
actually, if they could vote out their own votes.
Okay, I'll vote out your own vote. Steve?
Yes.
No.
Yes?
No.
Yes.
We have music to the,
Yes,
okay, Amy is yes. Bill?
I said yes.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, the 100% revision.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Idlewild Creek Apartments? Good. Most everyone here is quite familiar with the project, so we won't belabor you. Sure, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
So we got comments from the board and the consultants last month. We addressed those in a response letter. We did reach out to the fire chief as well and added a couple things to the plan to address what he was looking to achieve in the rear parking lot. With that, I think everything else is pretty much squared away.
Very good. Kristen?
Yes, so the applicant did revise the plans consistent with our previous comments. In terms of seeker, this application is a type 2 action, is under seeker as well, so no further action required. We've received a general municipal law review letter from the Orange County Planning Department, no comments that need to be addressed, and your board waived the public hearing already on this application.
Right. Okay, thank you, Kristen. Sean?
Yep, so just as the applicant's engineer stated, the fire chief had a letter with regards to their review. I believe the plans were, or I know the plans were amended to address his concerns. That I spoke with the chief and he was satisfied with the revisions. I've also spoken to Gary and he's also satisfied with the revisions to the plans. However, I just want to note one thing, that the response memo noted that the signs.
Yeah, the sign, I saw that when I got here tonight. It was on layer, I filled it off, so
Yeah.
I can get that to you.
Small drafting error will be corrected for restricting access to the internal sidewalks.
Yeah, he'd asked for a sign to be placed right there for the access into the rear of the building. So what we did is we provided a flush curb through there for this fire truck to be able to get all the way to the back of the building. We're going to put a sign, just fire access only.
The only other items I had were for technical details to be added to the plan, but our office takes no exception to the board moving forward this evening.
Very good, thank you, Sean. Very good.
Everything's fine now, it's revised.
With that, all of that is buildable and acceptable approvals in the property. Good. Amy?
I concur with the current plan.
Bill?
Okay, with
I'm good.
Yeah, I'd only commend the engineer on one of those thorough response memorandum I've ever seen to one of these things. Could we make copies of this and hand it out to everyone?
By all means.
For us? Because it certainly eases our review to have a detailed sort of punch list like this to go through, so thank you.
I second that.
Yeah, very good, thank you.
We do ones that are many, many more pages than that. So
It's much appreciated.
Dominic, is there a resolution prepared?
yes, I did prepare a resolution for the board's consideration tonight. This is a site plan amendment. Approval is actually very straightforward. I actually had very good help from my colleague Ivan Bouton, who's here. He's hiding behind.
As you introduce and stand up and wait. Yeah.
So Ivan helped out on this one, and the conditions are very simple. It's the limitation on the use is that this is just for the construction of the 7, or actually 18 new spaces for a total of 117. And any final comments that the planning board engineer has.
Just go right through Sean.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
perfect.
Yeah. And that's it. It's a very straightforward application.
Excellent job. Okay, with that, I'll ask for a motion. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we are on the SallyeAnder Holdings LLC.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Patrick Rizzi, I'm the engineer for the applicant. Tonight we're here for SallyeAnder. With me is Sally Austin, owner and operator of SallyeAnder. Basically, tonight we're here looking for referral to the ZBA So the project is proposing is to use a building on Route 32, the old gym kids. That currently is commercial residential building. We're looking for light manufacturing. And since we're changing the use of the building, it puts us in a different use group for that zone. And so some of the requirements as far as the area, lot width, front yard setback, change for light manufacturing. So we need to be referred to get variances for those. But there's no proposed change to the physical site. There's sufficient parking, the building's already up and in place, and that's really what we're here for tonight. I do have Sally, if the board has any questions regarding what she'd like to do or how to operate, what's going to happen in the
You
building.
explained it briefly, but we will ask for a little bit of a brief explanation of what business, I'm so unfamiliar with it having.
Sure, it's SallyeAnder. My parents started the business back in the 80s. We're over in Beacon right now. We have a very tiny space in the back of a very old building, so we're looking to grow here in Cornwall. I live here, 3 kids here, my family's here as well. So this opportunity came up, and it was it's double the square footage of what we have, so we can increase, what we can do in terms of what we're making. So we make a bug repellent that's all natural, and various skincare products. So just looking to grow, and light manufacturing really fits us perfectly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good.
What size trucks are you moving on and off the property?
There'll be small box trucks for right now, as there's no loading in and out, no loading dock or anything there.
But is there an intent to create a loading dock?
No,
I'm only
that's-
asking before you go to the ZBA, just to make sure that,
Right.
that all the, I would hate to see you go and then come back and then go
Right.
again. So I'm just wondering what the intent is in terms of moving trucks on and off.
Yeah, not at this time. We're not going to build a loading dock now. Small
Okay.
box trucks is what we're going to be using.
Okay.
Kristen? I don't know if we need comprehensive review, since this is just a referral to the planning board, but if there are any general issues maybe that we can uncover, so that the next time you come back, it might in fact be the last time.
Yeah, I think that that's important to kind of, for the board to understand that this is kind of a conceptual plan. There's no survey yet, so I think the applicant is trying to move forward as efficiently as possible. So while they're working on developing, or obviously obtaining a survey and developing a full site plan, I think that this is just trying to move them forward. So, of course, my recommendation, once you get the survey, is to make sure that your variances are what they are, because you don't really know the exact dimensions, but make sure to lock that down. So that's kind of my only real recommendation between now and going to the ZBA, is to make sure that that's all set, because you don't want to go back twice, because there's a public hearing and fees associated with that each time. So net lot area, obviously everything else here is basically, all the other comments are basically things for the future when you come back. I think, a detailed narrative of the business would be helpful to come back. You're also gonna have to address the special permit criteria, which I think should be pretty straightforward for this particular use, but you're just gonna have to kind of fold that into a narrative. Net lot area calculation that basically pertains just to your access, because that is through an easement. But I don't see any real issues. We do have a short EAF, which I found acceptable. Gonna have to just print out the DEC, there's a remediation site, there's 2 remediation sites just based on where the applicant is on Route 32, just based on its location. It's within so many feet of 2 different remediation sites. You just gotta go and print them off the DEC website. And if you can't find them, email me and I'll send them to you. Not a problem. So, based on the scope of the project, again, that intermunicipal agreement, the reuse of an existing building is exempt from the county GML referral, so nothing to do there. And we'll worry about public hearing when you come back with a full plan. So nothing else at this time.
Very good, thank you. Sean?
Kristen already covered the private road maintenance agreement, providing that to Dominic for review. And Vice Chairman Klosky already covered the trucks, which I have memorialized from our discussions at the workshop, that would only be box trucks.
Okay, we're gonna limit that length probably, there'll be some statement of like how big a box.
That would be appropriate, perhaps the engineer could provide a turning template for the max truck.
Yeah.
Could,
You know, typically like 40 foot, something like you'd see Amazon delivery UPS trucks.
Yeah.
FedEx.
The current cutout onto 32 isn't designed for anything much bigger than 40 foot. So I just, you know, as a future piece of work, we're gonna have to see the turning ways
Yep.
getting on and off 32, because that's a very congested area. And, you know, safe access to 32 is gonna be a principal concern.
We can provide that on the site plan drawings.
Yeah. Okay. With that, I'll ask for a motion for referral to the zoning board.
So moves.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, there you go.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Ian, two. Gary, I have this done for you, by the way. With that, are there any motions to adjourn? Thank
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to bring something. Yeah. Please, hold on. Definitely want to.
Yes. All right,
Thanks, Rand.
Mr. Kowski has
A little unusual.
requested to make a note to the record.
Yeah, so, Mr. Cordisco, it's my understanding that I'll wait until all the business is transacted. Mr. Cordisco, it's my understanding that the state of New York does not provide a mechanism for removing a covenant or deed restriction once it's attached to a deed. I've dug into this a couple of times, and as near as I can tell, once something is stapled to that deed in Goshen, it's extremely difficult to remove. For the members of the public who are out there, one of the things that falls across our desk as part of the people's business here on the planning board is we see many deeds and deed restrictions which we are called upon to enforce. I wanted to just bring forward, and it doesn't matter really which application it was associated with, but I want to bring forward one of the clauses that came across our desk as part of this meeting. This clause, for everybody's just edification, was attached to a deed in our community in 1941. So this is not something from 1868. This is something from 1941 that rode with the deed until the 1960s. And it says the following, this is part 3, that no part of said land shall be sold or leased to persons other than members of the Caucasian race, nor shall persons of other races be permitted to occupy any part of said premises or to dwell thereupon in any capacity other than as household servants for bona fide residents of said land. I just thought it would be of considerable interest to the community to know that these deed restrictions continue to ride with the deeds. Now, this particular deed restriction is not actionable, having expired in 1961, but there are many other deed restrictions which continue to remain in force throughout our county. And as far as I know, there's currently no mechanism for going to a court and filing for the abrogation or removal of said deed restrictions when they are clearly illegal or have already expired. I think it would considerably assist in proper title management across our state if there were to be such a mechanism where a landowner could petition the court for the removal of those covenants. So I just wanted to read that into the record today. I am thinking hard about what sort of letter to execute to send up to state legislature on this very issue. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes here to share that with the board.
Jerry, I have a question on that. Doesn't the Civil Rights Act of 1963 grant that?
It does.
Pretty good, huh?
So it's a clearly
Do my
illegal,
legal research.
it's a clearly illegal covenant if you try to enforce it today. But in my mind, there ought to be a mechanism for having it removed from the record so that it does not ride as, in perpetuity as part of the deed to land.
Can it? Judge,
I'm sorry,
could it ride in perpetuity despite?
Well,
Just out of curiosity, it's a very good discussion to have, just out of curiosity, and yeah, you gave us up for 10 minutes.
yeah. I mean, this particular restriction did expire in 1961 of its own terms, but there is the potential, and certainly Mr. Dravick knows this, is that when something is of record, when an easement or a restriction that is written into a deed, you know, is recorded in the county clerk's office, that means it's of record. It means it is there, it's part of the chain of title. In this particular instance, it expired, but if it didn't have that expiration in it, it would still be theoretically and enforceable and on.
So the expiration was part of the deed itself, and
Yes, in this case, it was part of the deed restriction.
Yes.
shameful, but.
Yes. But thankful, at least in the sense that it was expired and doesn't plague, you know, people that are coming afterwards. There are plenty of deed restrictions that crop up in interesting ways. I was mentioning earlier today that the Harriman family, which owned, you know, a great deal of this part of New York from Tuxedo all the way up through Woodbury, at one time. Of course, they donated the vast majority of that for the Harriman State Park as well as the Thruway. All the property that the Thruway through the Hudson Valley was owned by the Harriman family. But they also sold off plenty of other property.
They also bought that land because they were angry that they didn't allow them in Tuxedo Park.
Yeah, and
There's a story behind every story.
But they sold off a lot of pieces, including to a lot of commercial development, what's now commercially developed throughout the Woodbury area, with plenty of restrictions on it, like restrictions against gas stations and hotels. And a lot of that property now is being developed for those very same purposes. And people who purchase those parcels have to go to the descendants of the Harriman family and say, we would like you to remove this restriction because you hold this restriction on this property, even though it might have been sold in 1940 or thereabouts. So these restrictions can come up and continue to have a say in how property is developed in the future.
No gambling at the Goshen Track. That's a Harriman family
Correct.
instilled
Correct.
restriction.
Yeah, and
And
also
you might not want to get assigned that part of the law office responsibility.
yes.
Probably.
And here in Cornwall, in connection with the Stillman family, of course, the biggest one that probably is foremost in people's minds is the golf course
Yeah.
has reverter language, that if it's
Yeah.
not, continues to be used for a golf course, it reverts to the Stillman family,
Yeah.
no matter how much time has passed.
Very interesting and very, very good point to that. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you for the patience of the board.
No patience required. Any other questions? Take the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. In favor?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, board.